Before you dive into this jaw-dropping story, smash that subscribe button and turn on notifications, because what you're about to read will shake you to your very core. A tale of cruelty, secrets, revenge, and the hidden strength that no one saw coming. So stick around because this is not just a story. It's a warning, it's a revelation, and it's something you'll never forget. The sun was barely peeking over the distant hills of the countryside when Emma, an 8-year-old farm girl with hair the color of ripened wheat and wide blue eyes that reflected both innocence and determination, hurried along the dirt path with a basket of fresh eggs balanced carefully in her small hands, her humming soft and cheerful, unaware that fate was about to throw her into the darkest storm of her young life, because waiting near the barn were 3 boys, bigger, older, stronger, boys who had made it their mission to torment her because she was poor, because she lived on a farm with chickens and cows instead of in a grand house like theirs, because cruelty often feeds on the quiet strength of the gentle, and Emma, though strong in ways no one yet understood, had become their target. The boys, Tommy, Jack, and Shane, snickered as she approached, whispering about how she was just a farm rat, how her clothes were patched and her shoes too big, and as Emma stepped closer, one of them stuck out a foot, sending her tumbling to the ground, the eggs smashing into the dirt, the yolk running like gold into the dust, and though Emma tried to hold back her tears, the boys weren't satisfied with her silence. They wanted screams, they wanted power, and in their frenzy they pushed her down again, one of them striking her head with a rock, the sharp pain exploding in her skull, blood running warm down her face as her small body curled into itself for protection, and for a moment time froze, because that was the moment the balance shifted, the moment their laughter would one day echo back to them like a curse, because they had no idea that Emma's mother, the quiet woman who worked tirelessly in the fields, who wore a faded apron and kept to herself, was not who she seemed, not just a farmer's wife, but a woman with a past so dark, so dangerous, that even the cruelest bullies would have begged for mercy had they known. Emma lost consciousness for only a few moments, and when she woke, the boys were gone, their cowardice making them scatter once they realized what they had done. But she staggered home with blood in her hair, her basket empty, and her mother, Anna, looked up from kneading dough when she saw her daughter stumble through the doorway, and the calm mask she always wore cracked, revealing eyes that burned like fire, because in that instant she wasn't just a mother, she was a storm about to break. Anna cleaned her daughter's wound with hands that shook with fury, whispering soothing words, but inside her heart raged with memories she had buried, memories of another life when she was not Anna the farm wife but Anya Kovalenko, a name whispered in fear across countries, a woman who once walked among shadows as one of the most feared operatives of a secret organization that toppled tyrants and hunted monsters, a woman who had vowed to leave it all behind when Emma was born, seeking peace in the simplicity of farm life, but blood calls to blood, and when she saw the gash on her little girl's head, something inside her awakened, something the world had almost forgotten. Emma, half dizzy from the pain, begged her mother not to tell anyone, but Anna kissed her forehead and promised her daughter she would make it right, and while Emma drifted into exhausted sleep, Anna stepped outside into the night, her figure silhouetted against the moonlight, and whispered to herself in a language few remembered, a vow that the ones who had hurt her child would learn the truth about who she was. The next day the village buzzed with gossip, because word had spread that Emma had been hurt, but no one dared confront the 3 boys, as their families were powerful, their fathers owned land and influence, and the townspeople feared crossing them, but Anna feared nothing anymore. She walked straight into the marketplace, her steps slow and deliberate, her eyes fixed on the boys who now laughed together as though nothing had happened, and when she stopped in front of them, silence fell over the square, the kind of silence that makes the hairs on the back of your neck rise, because there was something in her gaze that unsettled even the boldest onlooker, something that spoke of storms, wars, and blood, though none of them could place why. The boys sneered at first, mocking her patched dress and calloused hands, but their smirks faltered when she leaned in and whispered each of their full names, including their middle names, their secrets, things no farm woman should know, and in that instant they felt the cold grip of fear without understanding why. Anna didn't raise her voice, she didn't strike them, she simply told them that the next time they thought of laying a hand on a child, they should remember this day, because some mothers were not what they seemed. That should have been the end. But cruelty rarely learns without consequence, and the boys, embarrassed by how shaken they felt, plotted revenge, thinking they could scare her, thinking they could regain their pride by proving she was just a woman, But when they crept toward the farm that night, intent on mischief, they found something waiting for them that would haunt their nightmares forever, because Anna had been expecting them, sitting calmly on the porch with a lantern by her side, her eyes glinting in the darkness, and behind her, in the barn, shadows moved, shadows that weren't just animals but men, men who owed Anna their lives from another time, men who had come when she called, and as the boys approached, laughter on their lips, the shadows stepped into the light, scarred soldiers with eyes as cold as steel, silent as death, and the boys froze, realizing too late that they had stepped into a world far bigger and darker than their childish cruelty, a world where their games could cost them more than a few stolen laughs. What followed was not violence but revelation, because Anna did not believe in punishing children with blood, but she believed in fear, in teaching lessons that scar deeper than wounds, and so she showed them things they could not explain, whispered truths about their father's corruption, secrets she had carried from the years when she walked among the powerful and the damned, and by the time the boys staggered back to their homes, pale and shaking, they were no longer laughing, their arrogance shattered, their hearts filled with dread whenever they saw Emma's innocent face, because now they knew that behind her stood a mother whose strength reached far beyond their comprehension, a mother who could break empires if she chose, and from that day forward they could not look at her without remembering the night they discovered who her mother really was. But the story didn't end there, because whispers began to spread beyond the village, whispers that Anya Kovalenko was alive, that the ghost of the shadows had returned, and soon strangers began to appear in town, men in suits with eyes that scanned too much, women with clipped accents asking too many questions, and Anna realized that by protecting her daughter, she had awoken enemies long thought buried, enemies who would stop at nothing to drag her back into the world she had left, and so the farm, once a haven, became a fortress, with hidden traps and allies arriving under cover of night, because the attack on Emma was not just an act of bullying anymore, it was the spark that reignited a firestorm. Emma, though only 8, began to sense the truth, began to see her mother not just as the gentle woman who baked bread and sang lullabies, but as someone far more, and though the wound on her head healed, the memory of that cruel day lingered, fueling a strength in her young heart, a strength that would one day define her, because children of fire carry flames in their souls, and Emma would not remain a victim but would grow into the legacy her mother had tried to shield her from. The boys who once tormented her grew into silent protectors, never daring to cross her again, often flinching at shadows when she walked by, and though the village never spoke openly about that night, everyone knew something had changed, because behind the simplicity of the farm lay a story of power, vengeance, and unbreakable love, and though Anna longed for peace, she knew that the world would never allow it, not when enemies whispered her name, not when blood called to blood, and so she prepared, training in secret, sharpening blades long hidden, teaching Emma lessons through games and stories that were more than they appeared, because someday, the child who had once lain bleeding in the dirt would rise as something far greater, and the world, just like those bullies, would learn too late who her mother truly was.